On today's child seat review segment, we are taking a look at the 2016 Chevy Impala. As usual, this is a Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat, suitable for forward or rearward facing installation and children between 4 and 50 pounds. The Impala is a full-size sedan in the United States. That means this is the next size category up from a Camry or an Accord. And it's really apparent on the inside because we get more legroom and more headroom than we find in the Camry. As I've talked about before, rear legroom especially has a big impact on inserting rear-facing child seats in a car. In addition to that, we have one of the largest trunks available in the United States at just under 19 cubic feet. One of the key reasons to buy the Impala over a Camry or an Accord or even the Chevy Malibu would be the amount of legroom that we get in this vehicle. You can move this front seat quite far back, and as you can see, my feet aren't really touching the floorboards flat. That means also that we can move this seat quite a bit further forward to give us more legroom in the rear. With the front seat adjusted to that position, you can see we have a simply enormous amount of room in the back, even though the front seats are large and thickly padded. Now, this child seat is not buckled in, but it is at the appropriate angle. If it was latched into place, it would actually be about 1.5 inches further rearward. This really is the big difference between the Impala and your average mid-size sedan, because we get an awful lot more room in the back seat. This means that if you're a family of taller people, you'll find it much easier to put rear-facing child seats behind average adults up front. So if everybody in your family is over, say, 5'11", this is definitely going to be the vehicle of choice. In addition to being larger than your average mid-size sedan, this is one of the largest full-size sedans on the inside. We have about 2 inches more rear legroom than you'll find in the Chrysler 300 or the Dodge Charger. The Impala is not only longer than your average mid-size sedan, it is also wider, and that's really important when it comes to putting 3 child seats across the back. Now, your average mid-size sedan can accommodate 3 child seats like this, but we have very little room over here on the side between the side of the child seat and the door of the vehicle. You'll find more room in this car. So if your child seats are wider than the Graco Classic Ride 50, which is a very average size in this segment, then you will want to look at something like this to give yourself a little bit more room. When it comes to attachment points, we have 2 sets of latch anchors for the outboard seating positions only, and we have 3 sets of top tether anchors for all 3 seating positions. One thing to note is that we don't have a center headrest in the back of the Impala. Now, that does mean adults will have a slightly higher chance of whiplash in a rear-end style accident if they're sitting right here in the middle, but it actually means that for these child seats, it's a little bit easier to install them in the back. The outboard headrests are adjustable, and that makes it a lot easier to put the top tether anchor on. One of the big reasons to get a full-size sedan would be the trunk, and we do have one of the largest trunks available in the US. This is just under 19 cubic feet. This is notably larger than the Chrysler 300 or the Dodge Charger. The trunks in the Chrysler vehicles are actually about the same size as your average mid-size sedan, so even though the car itself is larger, we don't really get that much more trunk space. In addition to this trunk being larger than your average mid-size sedan, the opening is quite a bit larger. That means it's easier to put larger items in the trunk. On the downside, the dimensions of this trunk mean that we cannot put a 24-inch roller bag in this position in the trunk or in this position on the sides. We can, however, line them up right here in the center and still close the trunk. Now, that means this is a little bit less convenient than something like a Nissan Altima. However, this is still bigger than those mid-size sedans. In addition, while the hinges over here on the side of the trunk do take up some of the cargo space, they've actually blocked that section off, so you don't have to worry about these bopping luggage. In a lot of sedans, you have to worry about that. If you put a bag a little too close to the side of the trunk, then it won't actually close because those bars would actually be hitting the luggage. You don't have to worry about that in this cargo area. Thanks for checking out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the 2016 Chevy Impala. Be sure and check out the complete review on this sedan on my channel coming up in the next day or so. I'll see you next week.